The Changeling, deceased. Real name, unknown. Occupation, second in command of Factor 3, later surrogate leader of the X-Men. Identity, secret. Legal status, American citizen with no criminal record. Other aliases, Professor Charles Xavier, others unknown. Place of birth, unknown. Place of death, New York City. Marital status, single. Known survivors, none. Group affiliation, Factor 3, posthumously made honorary member of the X-Men. First appearance, X-Men number 35. Final appearance, death in Xavier's guise, X-Men number 42. Identity as Changeling revealed in flashback, X-Men number 65. History. Virtually nothing is known about the Changeling before he joined the subversive organization known as Factor 3. It is believed that the Changeling discovered his shape-changing ability in adolescence and from then on committed numerous crimes while using various assumed forms. Legal authorities never realized that the many different-looking perpetrators of all these robberies and other crimes were actually the same man. The Changeling was astounded when one day he received a message from an anonymous source stating that he knew that the Changeling was responsible for certain crimes which the message described in detail. The message stated that its sender had use for a man of the Changeling's abilities and instructed him to appear at a certain location several days later. The Changeling complied, and there first met the mysterious masked and robed figure who called himself the Mutant Master. The Mutant Master possessed an extraordinary assortment of futuristic technological devices, one of which, he told the Changeling, he had used to identify the Changeling as a superhumanly powered mutant and to monitor his activities. The Mutant Master claimed to be a mutant himself and asserted that he shared the mutant Magneto's goal of having superhumanly powerful mutants rule the world. However, the Mutant Master disagreed with Magneto's then-current method of leading his Brotherhood of Evil mutants in open attacks upon humanity. The Mutant Master instead intended to form a cadre of superhumanly powerful mutants who would work in secret to subvert existing governments so as one day to seize power for themselves. The world was now dominated by two superpower nations, the Mutant Master stated, the United States and the Soviet Union. His subversive organization, he continued, would become in its own way a third superpower to be reckoned with, and therefore he would call the group Factor 3. The Mutant Master told the Changeling that he needed both a second-in-command to manage Factor 3's operations and also an agent who was capable of performing missions among humans without being detected. The Changeling's successful criminal career and his shape-changing power made him highly qualified for both roles. Dazzled by the prospect of becoming one of Earth's rulers, the Changeling accepted the Mutant Master's offer. Among the Changeling's many duties for Factor 3 was the recruitment of other mutant members. It was he who contacted the Blob, Mastermind, Unus, and the Vanisher and persuaded them to join Factor 3. The Changeling also learned of the mutant powers of the Banshee and invited him to join the organization. Appalled by Factor 3's goals, the Banshee adamantly refused. However, the Mutant Master had Banshee captured and strapped a headband around his head which would explode if he disobeyed Factor 3's orders or if he tried to remove it. Thus, the unwilling Banshee was sent on various missions for Factor 3 under the supervision of one of its human agents, the Ogre. It was on one of these missions that the Banshee clashed with the X-Men, whose leader, Professor Charles Xavier, freed him from the headband. The Banshee then told them all he knew about Factor 3. See, Banshee. Factor 3 kidnapped Professor Xavier some time afterwards. The Banshee located Factor 3's secret headquarters in Europe and succeeded in notifying the X-Men about it before he himself was recaptured by Factor 3. The X-Men flew to Europe, but themselves fell into the clutches of Factor 3. They were put to trial in the Factor 3 headquarters for treachery to the cause of mutant domination of Earth. It was then that the X-Men and the Changeling first actually met. The X-Men were imprisoned while the Mutant Master set into motion his plan to induce the United States and Soviet Union to wage nuclear war upon each other. The Vanisher and the Blob were to plant a bomb that would assassinate many Soviet military leaders, and Mastermind and Unus would launch missiles from an American military base towards the Soviet Union. The X-Men broke free, halted the scheme, and confronted the Mutant Master and his mutant agents in their alternate headquarters. But then the Changeling, who had grown suspicious of the Mutant Master's motives, appeared in the guise of Xavier and accused the Mutant Master of betraying his mutant allies. The Mutant Master ordered his androids to attack both the X-Men and his mutant allies, who fought back together. The freed Banshee used his sonic wail on the Mutant Master's machinery, causing the platform upon which the Mutant Master sat and the Mutant Master's helmet and human disguise to shatter, revealing him to be, in actuality, a semi-octopoid extraterrestrial being called a Siri. See Alien Races, Siris. As the Mutant Master, the Siri was really exploiting the mutants of Factor 3 for its own ends. By triggering a nuclear war through his mutant agents, the Siri would have destroyed most of the human race. Then he would eliminate his mutant agents as well. Shocked and furious at having been so deceived, the Factor 3 mutants joined the X-Men in battling the alien, who committed suicide to avoid capture. Before this, the real Xavier had arrived and exposed the Changeling's imposture. The X-Men and Factor 3's mutants then went their separate ways. A short time thereafter, Professor Xavier, through his telepathic powers, learned that another race of aliens, the Xenox, see Alien Races, Xenox, intended to invade and conquer the Earth. Xavier believed that the Xenox could most surely be defeated through psionic means. He would have to form a linkage of the minds of the majority of good people on Earth. But Xavier needed time in nearly complete isolation to prepare for this. He was then visited by the Changeling, who had been deeply shaken by learning the truth about the Mutant Master, and even more so by recently learning that he himself had a terminal illness and would live no more than 6 months. The Changeling told Xavier that he wanted to do something before his death to make up for his past crimes. So Xavier had the Changeling impersonate Xavier himself so that the Changeling, as Xavier, could continue training the X-Men in Xavier's absence. Xavier himself remained in a sub-basement of his mansion, continuing his preparations to battle the Xenox. Xavier believed that if he told the X-Men what he was really doing, they would worry unnecessarily. He told only Marvel Girl, Jean Grey, what he was doing, and that the Xavier training them was actually the Changeling. Since the Changeling had helped train agents of Factor 3, he was quite suited for his new role. Moreover, Xavier imparted a fraction of his own telepathic ability to the Changeling, which returned to Xavier upon the Changeling's death to complete the latter's disguise. A side effect of this was to activate the Changeling's latent minor telekinetic power. A few weeks after the Changeling began his impersonation of Xavier, the X-Men came in contact with Grotesque, the insane Prince Gortok, sole survivor of the subterranean race of Gortakians who had become extinct as a result of underground nuclear explosions caused by humans. See Appendix Grotesque, Subterraneans. Grotesque intended to destroy the human race in revenge and therefore stole a nuclear oscillotron, a newly invented device which could trigger earth tremors and could potentially create a chain reaction of seismic waves that could destroy the Earth. The X-Men and the Changeling, who was still impersonating Xavier, found Grotesque and the machine, and the Changeling used Xavier's mental bolts in a vain attempt to prevent Grotesque from activating the machine at full power. The Changeling and Marvel Girl together then used their telekinetic powers to try to halt the machine altogether. The enraged Grotesque threw the Changeling aside and tried to force more power from the oscillotron, only to have it explode instead. The Changeling was too close to the explosion and was fatally wounded. He died mere moments later, knowing he had redeemed himself through his sacrifice. It would not be until months later, when Xavier reappeared as the Xenox were closing in on Earth, that the X-Men, other than Marvel Girl, learned that the man who died that day was not Xavier, but the Changeling. Height, 5 feet 11 inches. Weight, 180 pounds. Eyes, brown. Hair, black. Powers. The Changeling was a mutant metamorph, or shape-changer, whose ability was basically the same as that of Mystique. See, Mystique. Through psionic means, the Changeling could alter his physical appearance, including his height, the color of his hair, eyes, and skin, and so forth, so as to appear to be an exact duplicate of any human or humanoid, man or woman. He could likewise alter his voice so as to duplicate that of any other person.